Hey guys, welcome. For today's yin practice, we're going to want to gather some different things to use for props. So, something to sit up on. I've got my blanket, a throw pillow works really well there too. And then another blanket or a towel rolled up like I have it there. If you have a block, have that nearby, or a second throw pillow to have for some support in different things. We're going to focus our practice today on supporting the immune system. This is such a great practice to do just during kind of general cold and flu season. Anytime we think we need a little bit extra support there. Also can be good to do at the end of like when you're getting over like a cold or a crud, something like that. I don't always recommend doing it right when you're in the middle of it because as we're working to flush through the lymphatic system, and I'll talk a little bit about that, sometimes it can bring that stuff on a little bit stronger. So nice to save for when your body's ready to work through that end of that healing process. So if you need to pause, gather those things, do that. And we'll start in a seated forward fold, but just a little different variation. So I'm going to stay up on the blanket because I think it's really nice in forward folds. Right, sit on the right on the edge of the blanket to give your hips a little support. And then just take your feet 6 or so inches apart so your legs can rest. And what we're going to do differently here is take this towel roll or blanket and snuggle it right into your belly. And you can certainly adjust the height, the depth of the towel roll once you get in and see where we're going. Right. And then you just want to take a little length in your spine. You can snuggle it in there and then start to fold forward. If it feels like too much, unroll it a little bit. And then you have a few different options for support here. Because we want to create this bit of compression on the belly, if that isn't super sustainable in your hamstrings, you can bend your knees a little bit and slide that second throw pillow or any kind of blanket that you might have under there so that just so you can feel a connection here of belly to towel to thighs, which is a little harder to get if you're sitting upright. Right? So some of our poses that require a little more prop setup today, just give yourself a few moments to really settle in. We spend some time here in a yin practice, so right, take those moments to figure out what you need most. And then if you have a block, right, you can rest your head on a block. You can let it rest to your knees and see if you can find a situation that feels supported. And then once you're all settled in, see if you can let your body start to soften into that pose. And so your legs aren't having to work, just let them rest. Feel the connection of your hips settle back and down. And then feel the place where your upper body and your head can start to settle in and release any effort, any doing. And then go ahead, bring your attention to your breath if you haven't already. And so you might just notice and start to let the breath get a little fuller, that you're feeling that compression of your blanket, your towel roll, whatever you've got there, right, into that space of the belly with your breath. So find the place that feels like the breath is full enough, but you're not struggling against that compression. Right, so we're going to emphasize some places in the body today where there's bigger groupings or clusters of our lymph nodes. Right, our lymphatic system really being kind of the trash collection and filtering system of the body. And when we can work to create both compression and stretch here, it's almost like wringing out the sponge, right? We're giving it the pressure so then it can get some release or creating space. Because one of the things that can happen is that when these areas get really stagnant, right, and our body's not working as efficiently to process through right, toxins and germs and all the things that we encounter throughout the day, Our immune system can get a little overloaded. And so the goal here being to support that, to give it that manual pumping action so we can help to move through the things that our immune system is trying to filter. And so as we work through the practice today, just bringing attention to those specific areas. Here we're really trying to affect the cluster of lymph nodes that sits low in the belly, at the crease of the groins. Really anywhere where there's creases in the body, there's lymph nodes. Some areas in bigger concentration than others. And so we'll work through some of those areas today, working to compress, to open, to create that pumping action. In these last few breaths here, just feeling that little bit of compression as your breath, as your belly moves against that roll of your blanket, your towel. And just slowly start to help yourself all the way back up. And you can set yourself off to the side for a moment. It feels good. Just give a really gentle, slow shake of your legs. And a little movement back in. Okay, and then you're going to stay seated up on your support. Just take your legs out wide. If it helps to come sideways on the mat, like I'm doing, great. Right? You can just kind of fit wherever's comfortable for your space at home. Okay, and then just let your toes windshield wiper in and out for a moment. And slow it down. And let them fall wherever they do, in or out, no effort. Okay, and if this feels like enough, right, stretch work for you here, so you can stay pretty upright. You could also slide a block or pillows underneath your knees for a little bit more support. And then you can start to walk forward. And for some of us, that might just mean hands forward, rest your weight there. That might mean stacking up a couple blocks or your other throw pillow and blocks. You can even simply come forward, rest to your forearms, and let your chin rest towards your chest. So making do with what we've got at home for support, while trying to set up enough that it feels like you can really settle in. Good. Once you're there, just start to release again the effort. So you feel your legs get heavy, your seat anchor, and your upper body can find that support. And then come back to steady, even rhythm of breath. Right, so here now we're working to create some space, again, through those inner groins and into the low belly, the opposite of the compression that we just had. The lymphatic system, unlike our circulatory system, right, our circulatory system, our blood flow system, has the heart. It's like the battery, the pump. It keeps things moving no matter what we're doing. Right, the lymphatic system requires action on our part to move, right? So unless we're doing something, manual movement or compression to the body, the immune system, the lymphatic system stays stagnant, right? It doesn't pump unless we move. When you think about these lymphatic vessels, like kind of tiny little blood flow vessels, a little more surface on the body. It's web throughout the body, and the vessels connect to the lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes then empty out, right, through the same ways we get rid of any toxins in our body, through elimination, through sweat. But our body needs to move in order for that to happen. Right? And sometimes that might be the stretch, because like we're doing here, we got the stretch to create the space, and then when we move back from that, right, it's like that pumping action that compression and stretch in alternating ways create. Right? So when we just sit all day, the immune system, the lymphatic system, doesn't get to do its job, doesn't get to work through. And so the more sedentary, the more still we are, the more stagnant our lymphatic system can be. All right, simple actions, walking, stretching, yoga, anything we do that moves and pumps our body, moves and pumps the lymphatic system. Which is why it can be helpful, even if we're not feeling great, just to move a little bit, right? Maybe not, again, targeted lymphatic system practices, but things that just help our systems to stay moving. Think about this, where there's creases, right? That's where there's hinges at our body that are always working as we do, right? Arms are pumping, legs are pumping, and that creates that manual action at the lymph nodes. And let's just take a few more breaths here. And just keeping the breath steady and smooth. I'm just going to ease your way back up. And use your hands behind your knees, help your legs back together. And then you can take your hands behind you with your feet a little wider, just let your knees slowly windshield wiper side to side, right? We held in the stillness for a little while, so let the actions in between be slow so we're not jarring our bodies back and forth. Okay, and from here we're going to come to lying down. You could bring your towel roll with you, or you could have a block. You're just going to want something for some support under your head. You choose what's right. We're going to have a lot of stacks of props probably going on here throughout the practice. So as you come to lie down, prop yourself up onto your forearms. And this one can be a little funny to get into, but great compression for the lymph nodes within the armpit and the front of the chest there. The charm pit, as you might sometimes call it. So first, go ahead and just relax through your legs. Right? And just like we did in that seated forward fold, you can take them a little wider. They don't have to come all the way wide, just where it feels like they can relax. Okay, and then you're going to take your left arm, thread it behind your right elbow. And for many of us, this is a great stage to stop at. Left arm behind, stretch your right arm forward, and then let your head rest to your block, to your pillow, towel, whatever you've got. Right. If it feels like, all right, that's fine, but I have a little more space, you can take your right arm and snuggle it in front so that you have this cross up at the biceps, right? Tying the knot. Right? That works for some of us. It doesn't work for all of us. And find the right variation. You can turn your palms up or palms down and see what works better. Sometimes you have to kind of snuggle it in. And then once you get all situated there, let the weight of your body soften down onto your arms. Make sure your legs are relaxed again. Sometimes they've helped to get you into the position, so let go of the effort. You can keep your eyes soft or closed. And then just notice where you feel that compression, right, through that area, the outer chest and the armpit. Right, big concentration of lymph nodes here that drain from the chest. Well, from a lot of places, but that's one of the main areas. And if you're a visual person or like the visualizations, sometimes I think about the compression that we do here, like when you squeeze a sponge, right? When a sponge just sits and never gets wrung out, it gets kind of gross and stagnant. Same thing can happen for our bodies. So this compression's like a big squeeze. Help to move through the toxins, the germs, all the things our body takes in, filters, and then we give it a little assistance in helping to let it go, to wring it out. Into those areas where you feel that compression. And just make sure the sensation's not too much, that it feels sustainable. Maybe you can bring a little breath into that as well. If it feels like there's any areas that are resisting, just start to let it settle. And we start to move into a little bit quieter part of the practice. I've talked a little bit about the lymphatic system. In those quieter places, see what can hold your attention. Mind doesn't drift as much. It might be the visualization of what's happening in your body. It might just be the attention to your breath. And then just take a few more breaths here. And just as you're ready, slowly, you can unwind your arms and come back to that Sphinx pose up on forearms. Soften your chest. Take a couple breaths and just notice the sensation into that area now. Right? Sometimes after the compression, we do get that flush, right? Where blood flow comes in, a little warming sensation. Let's see what you notice. And then we'll go ahead, switch sides. So take your right hand, thread it behind your left elbow. Right, and so same thing, and you might choose the same or different variation side to side. Stretch your left arm forward, right arm threaded, or snuggle your left arm in front. Work the biceps up there, and then let your head rest. I'm going to use my toes to bring head forward to that support. And soften through legs and feet. And then just really feel like you can let the weight of your upper body settle down onto your arms. And just by releasing that weight, is there a little added compression that we bring in? And notice where you feel any sensation, compression. Where does the pose feel effective? There might be different sensations besides just that concentration of lymph nodes, as we're just also getting to the shoulders here. But you can let your attention rest back to that area. We can even feel, sometimes we do this often in our throat, and glands and lymph nodes get swollen. Can happen with illness in the belly and the armpit, and they're just not functioning properly. And sometimes when we know we're starting to get sick or we've been exposed to things, I find it can be really helpful to just visualize this process in the body. Feeling that my immune system is strong. And that the more I can find some gentle movement, I can get the lymphatic system working, pumping. It doesn't always have to be gentle. Sometimes that's just what feels good when we're not feeling great. And if your mind starts to drift, invite it back, keep it steady. And let's just take a few more breaths here. Again, just slowly unwind your arms. Come back to that Sphinx pose for a couple breaths, or you could even come all the way down to your belly. Just stack your hands, see what feels better there. And notice if there's any different sensation that comes in after. And then come all the way down. Use your hands by your ribs. Stretch to tabletop. Okay, and I would say have your block, pillow, or towel roll nearby here. And so you're going to keep your hips stacked right over your knees. You can have your toes tucked or feet flat, whatever feels more comfortable. And as you keep your hips high, walk your hands forward, heart melting pose. This is where, for some of us, a block or a pillow underneath the forehead is really nice, especially if it feels like there's a lot of pinching on the tops of the shoulders, right, as you come down. If it feels comfortable to bring your head all the way to your mat, great, do that. Or give yourself a little bit more support if that's a better place to be. For some of us here too, there's a good amount of back bend. So a little lift to the head can take some of the back bend out. Or just a really gentle tone through your low belly to support that can be helpful. And then once you have that, you can soften your chest down towards the ground. And here we're working now to get that space opening, the chest and the armpit, that area where we just created a lot of compression. And now we get to open it up, stretch it out, let there be space. Sometimes in those areas where the physical body, where the tissues, the connective tissue, the muscle tissue gets a little stuck, right? That also can stop, right, that really good flow of blood flow, but also of the immune system, right? So as the lymphatic system's trying to pump and move through there, if there are those areas where the muscle, right, we call it knots, where things just feel bound up, not really knots, but things aren't moving properly, that it can get a little stuck there. So the healthier and more open our tissues are, the more freely that lymphatic system can flow, the better the system can function. So choose here where to bring your breath, your attention. Where does it help you to visualize that system moving, emptying out the waste, the stuff the body has filtered through? We'll stay just a few more breaths, but with any pose, if the sensation becomes a little bit too much, right, allow yourself to back out, to come out altogether. You want to find that sensation without pushing past it. And just slowly start to find your way back to tabletop. Good. Take a couple slow rounds of cat-cow and just a little bit of fluid movement through the belly, your chest, your spine. So then come on back to center. Grab your towel roll or blanket roll again, whatever you've got. Tuck your toes under. Bring your knees together, and then you're going to take your towel roll. You can even do this with just a pillow. Again, you can adjust the thickness of it. And you're going to sit back. Right, like mine's a little thick. It doesn't want to stay snuggled behind the knees. And we do really want to get it behind the knees for this one so that we're getting the lymph nodes that sit there. And if the added toe stretch feels like a lot here, right, you can always do tops of your feet down. The goal is really the backs of the knees. We're just adding in the feet because it's great, again, just to keep everything open, right? But play with it as you need. So I'm going to bring my hands here to blocks. You can keep your hands down to your mat. You could also bring your hands to your thighs. I find this one a little more intense with the towel roll really snuggled behind the knees. For some of us, the towel roll is really nice there to give space if your knee doesn't like that really deep knee bend too. This can be a really supportive prop to use just regularly in your practice. Right, but the idea being here is that we're going to get those lymph nodes right at the crease behind your knee joint. If a pillow snuggled in there is better. Sometimes it's just a little washcloth that you can slide behind. Whatever works. Right. Just that flexion of the knee itself is obviously going to give some compression to the lymph nodes. The towel just gives it a little extra pressure. And then just let the weight of your hips settle down. Come back to your breath. And just find the places you can soften. Again, think what's enough sensation, but not too much. Breathe into those areas that need it. We won't stay here quite as long as we did in those long forward folds. And just settle in for these few moments. And give yourself just a few more breaths. And then slide forward and set your towel roll, whatever you've got, off to the side. And then come to tabletop. And one at a time, move all the situation of props here. Stretch a leg out behind you, keep your toes down, and then just rock back and forth on your toes. You can feel that stretch and opening through the backs of your knees, or one knee at a time. Switch other side, stretch your leg back, rock back and forth a little bit. In general, this can be nice for opening up the knees after deeper flexion, but really nice after the compression too, right? So we're working both ends of that ringing action. Okay, from here, come all the way down onto your back. Have a pillow, your blanket roll, a block, something on the left side of your mat in case you want that for a little support. Okay, once you get there, bring your right knee into your chest. Stretch your left leg out. And before we come into the twist here, just give your thigh a little squeeze in towards your belly. You can relax your foot. And then just take little movements, maybe an inch or two in each direction with your knee side to side. This does not have to be a big movement. Small, slow. And think compression, the creases along the front of your hip. And just this little bit of a massage action to get that manual pump action going. Okay, then from here, bring your right knee over to the left to twist. And that's where you might want that support under your knee. You can bring your right arm out to the side. Take your gaze wherever it's comfortable, up or over your right arm. And get soft through your eyes. Feel the back of your head really rest back. Right. We often talk about in yoga twists in general are really a great detoxifying practice. Right? With this same principle of compression and then opening, compression and then opening that we're wringing out. And often with twists, we're trying to affect more of the abdominal organs. Here, just let the focus still be that in the lymph nodes and the groins and the low belly. And that we're assisting the body in elimination. And see if you can keep your breath without forcing, without a huge amount of effort. Keep your breath moving all the way down into that lower part of your belly. Keep bringing your mind back to those attention points, to those focus points. Give yourself just a few more breaths on this side. With your next inhale, bring your knee back to center. Bring both knees in. And you can take a little rock side to side or make some circles with your knees, just a little gentle movement in between. Okay, and then keep your left knee in, stretch your right leg out. And if you had some support over on the left side, bring that over to the right. And do that same little rocking action first. So give your left thigh a squeeze in towards your belly. And then just slow and small movement, a couple inches side to side. A little squeeze and massage and compression along the front of the hip. I love this for the massage action that it often brings, but again, you're just shifting where the focus is. Doesn't mean we're not affecting all of it. Sometimes just where we know that where we bring our attention is where we're really getting the benefit. And then as you're ready, bring your knee across your body to the right. You might want a little more, a little less support. Wiggle around, find what you need. Bring your left arm out to the side. Soften your gaze. And allow the weight of your body to settle in. You can bring your attention back to your breath and to where you feel the sensation in your pose. The great thing about yoga in general is that we are always helping to move that pump of the lymphatic system, right? It's movement. Anytime we do movement. Yoga in general, I think, great because we often get into ranges of motion and places of compression that we don't always, right? If we're just walking or biking or hiking, that tends to be the same action. Not that that's not good, it's just not always getting into different places. And so yoga in general, great for our immune system. Besides that, we're working with the nervous system and breath and all those things that support the immune system. Right, but it's just like saying one day we're going to focus on hips or on back bends. Just bringing a little more attention to specific areas to support. Give yourself just a few more breaths here. Unwind, come back to center. You can do the same. Bring your knees into your chest, give them a little movement or a little squeeze. And then release your feet down to your mat. Use either your block or a throw pillow or two, and you're going to lift your hips, slide your block underneath. Just make sure it's really up under the meaty parts of your glutes, right? Your sacrum, and you're down from your low back. Okay, and then from here, dry your knees in, stretch your legs up in a supported legs up the wall. If you're right by a wall or a couch or somewhere where you can do just regular legs up the wall and you want to do that, great. This is a nice way to do it with a little extra support on your mat. Bring your arms out wherever they're comfortable. And just really rest back through the back of your head, your shoulders. And see if you can find the place where your legs just don't have a lot of effort. Now we're getting that reverse of gravity, allowing the compression and the space, right? All that we kind of stirred up. I like to think about it as draining out. Right. This legs up the wall is going to be our Shavasana, our final resting pose today. So make it work, make it comfortable for you. I think rest is one of the pieces that is so important for our immune system. I know for me that when I do get sick, it's not uncommon that it's my body's way of telling me to slow down, to rest, right? Like it's going to force me if I'm not already doing it. And where can we build in a little rest through our practice, through our days? So find that as a way to support the immune system. And so we'll just find a few more moments of rest here, and your legs at the wall. And bring your attention back to your breath. And bring your knees in towards your chest, set your feet down. Lift your hips, slide your support out. And then just for a few breaths, take your feet wide, let your knees rest together in constructive rest pose. Just allow your back to settle. And from here, roll to your side. Press all the way up to sitting. Bring your hands together at your heart. Ground your seat, lift your heart to your hands. Bow in head to heart. And thank you for carving out this time to take really good care of yourself. And thank you, as always, for sharing the practice. Namaste.